So today's Digital Humanities Colloquium is by Geoffrey Rockwell. He's presenting from Voyant. I always have in mind it's Spyral, but you call it Spyral. So from Voyant to Spyral, documenting your studies. Um, so Geoffrey Rockwell is a professor of philosophy and digital humanities at the University of Alberta in Canada, and he holds the Canada CIFAR AI chair and is a fellow of the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute as well. So he publishes on video games, textual visualization, text analysis, but also ethics of technology and on digital humanities. So he's co-authored a book about text analysis and visualization, hermeneutica, with MIT Press, and he actually just mentioned that he's working on another book on Voyant actually. So that'll be interesting to see as well. Hopefully that will come out soon. He is the co-director of the Voyant Consortium, so I'm very happy to have him here present on Voyant. And this consortium maintains the Voyant tools. And as you all know, I think Voyant tools are an award-winning suite for textual analyses. Um, Geoffrey, let me stop my share and then you can take over.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start sharing. And are you seeing my slides now?
Yes, this all looks good. Thank you. The virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I should say Spiral is a perfectly good pronunciation. Stefan Sinclair was Francophone, so he tended to sort of pronounce it Spiral, and I was infected by that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Voyant and then demonstrate it. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about Spyral and demonstrate it. I'm going to make a little pitch for the Voyant Consortium, which is free to join and so on like that. And then hopefully leave time for a lot of questions. So first of all, Voyant and Spyral have been evolving over the years in many ways. They evolved from Stefan Sinclair's PhD thesis. He built a text analysis environment called Hyperpo, which was an in-browser on the web, and this was in the late 1990s. It was the first time I saw it, I was very impressed. The two of us worked together and developed Voyant. We had some funding from the Canadian government, but it sort of evolved out of that and some other tools that I was involved with. It runs in the browser, so you don't have to install anything. It's free. It was developed by humanists for humanists. Um, the source is open. You can actually download it and run it locally if you want it. It's got a multilingual interface. It has about 24 different text analysis and visualization tools. And in terms of just our server, we're seeing that something in the neighborhood of 200,000 unique users, if one believes Google Analytics, are using it every year. So it's widely used. And one of the things I'm going to be showing that may be new for many of you is the Spyral extension. So we've got a second interface. It's not a second tool. It's really a second interface to the same set of tools, which is a notebook programming environment, which I think makes a really nice pathway. Um, so without any further ado, I'm going to actually switch over to my browser and show you Voyant. So if you go to Voyant, I should say, by the way, I'm running it locally off my machine, and that's simply so that if a whole mess of people start using the main server, it doesn't slow down, and I can make sure that this runs properly. But you are, of course, welcome to play around with the version on the server. And for that matter, Satellar is also running an instance, which I will talk about at the end, so you can play with that one. So anyway, this is the entry screen, which is what you see when you first connect to Voyant. There's a number of ways it Voyant is designed for analyzing text, not for editing them or building a corpus or managing a corpus. So the assumption is that you've used some other environment to build your corpus of texts. There's a number of ways that you can get those texts into Voyant. You can just simply type them. That's not really going to be very interesting. You could paste it in if it's a smaller text. You can put a URL right here. If, for example, you just want to grab something from Gutenberg, you can put the Gutenberg URL and we will go off and get it. Probably the most useful one is to upload, where you would, find a text and you would sort of select one or more texts and upload it. And we also have a set of texts which are baked in, which you can play around with. I think one of the neat things about the mirror version that Satellar is running is that they will have texts that are more appropriate to your research, that are drawn from South African sources. So you should probably go there, and this list will be different. I'm going to just pick one of the existing corpora. And just to be clear about the vocabulary, you can upload a single text, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or a collection of texts, where each text is a separate document, and you're studying, all the works by, in this case, Austen. And some of the tools behave differently depending on whether you're studying a single text or a group of texts, and I'll mention that. So here we've got Austen. What we have when we enter the default view of Voyant is we have a series of different tools, in this case, 5 different tools, a composition, if you will, of tools. There are, as I mentioned, something in the neighborhood of 23, 24 tools. So you can always get at one of the tools through this sort of menu in the upper right there. But we have created a particular composition of some of the most used tools. And each one of these panels contains one tool, but we actually have a little tabs up here. So we have 3 different tools which are easily accessible from the same in the same panel. This one is a word cloud. You've all seen word clouds. It shows you the high frequency content words. Here is a list of the high frequency content words. And then this is a little bit more idiosyncratic tool. It takes some of the high frequency content words and then shows you the words that co-locate. A sort of semantic network, if you will. So that's one particular panel showing one tool. And this panel here shows the full text. This is perhaps where Voyant is different from a lot of computer science developed tools, because we believe that even when you're doing distant reading, you always want to be able to get back to the text. So, for example, a standard way of messing around would be you see some word that you're interested in, like no. I'm going to click on no. This is going to synchronize. These tools are loosely concatenated. It's going to synchronize this trends tool, which shows me the relative frequency of the word no over the different novels. And the novels are arranged in chronological order. And then if I clicked on one particular bar here, so Lady Susan, I click on that, it synchronizes with this keyword in context down below, where I can sort of scroll down and see how the word no is used in Lady Susan. And then if I click on a particular instance, it synchronizes the full text. So I can actually, just outright read the full text from that location of the word no. So this is one of the ways in which Voyant was designed by humanists for humanists who always want to be able to return down to the full text and double check. This sort of, I think of it as a sort of roller coaster of going up to distant reading and then sliding quickly down to close reading and going back and forth. So we have these panels. You've quickly seen how they're loosely concatenated. Every one of the panels has some common features, so I'm just going to show those to you. Up in the When you mouse over here, you'll see we've got a question mark, which is the help. And so you can go, we have extensive documentation. We have this little options button, which if you click it, gives you control over the different options. So for example, we right now have, we're using a stopwords, an English stopwords list. That's why you don't see high frequency words like the and of. You're only seeing the content words. But you can, if you want to, and I'm not going to show this as a little bit more detailed feature. You can change your stop word list. You can edit the stop word list and so on, so on, so on. And we've got some other features here. And the features, the options will vary from tool to tool. So for example, if I'm in the terms here, one of the options um, is I can go from relative frequency to raw frequency. So relative frequency divides the number, I'm looking at the word no, the number of instances of the word no by the number of words in the text, because some of these novels might be bigger than others. Raw frequency just gives me the number of words. So there you are. And so now all of a sudden you see that in fact no shows up more in the word Emma than in Lady Susan. But because Emma is a bigger text, it's when we look at the relative frequency, in fact, Lady Susan, a smaller novel, has a higher relative frequency. So that's the options. We have this button here allows you to, right in that panel, pick any one of the tools. So you can embed right inside. Some of these tools don't look very good in a small panel like this, but you can do that. So you always have access to the other tools. And then finally, something that we're going to return to later on, we have the capacity to export. We can export the whole panel. I'll do that just to show that to you. So we're just opening a new tab with just this one tool. So here it is, just the one tool in its own little tab. But we can also export an HTML snippet if you wanted to drop that word cloud into a web page, a bibliographic reference, and what we're going to get to later on is a Spyral notebook, or of course you can export a PNG or SVG if you want to put it in a paper or something like that. And those, all of the panels will have those same controls, options, switch to a different tool, export. They all have the same thing. Obviously, the options and the export options and stuff like that will be a little bit different. So now what I'm going to do, oh, and the last thing I want to say about each panel is that the panel at the bottom will have some controls that are specific to that tool. So in this case, a word cloud, we've got a little slider. We can say that we want more words, we want fewer words. We can control the number of words. We've got a question of the scale. So right now we're getting a word cloud of the whole corpus, but we could decide that we only want one particular novel. We want a word cloud just for a particular novel. And these controls will vary by the tool. Over here, we've got this trends tool. I'll show you some of the specific controls. Here we can control the type of graph. So I can set it up as a, essentially a column graph, line graph, area. Area is not that interesting when you just have one word. We tend to use this one here. We have this reset button that should be fairly obvious, and we have a field here which can be very useful. You can just manually enter the word that you want. I'm going to just try hate. And if I put the asterisk, it's the wild card, I will get the word hate, hated, hates, hateful, hatefully, and so on like that. I hit return. Now I've got a different graph. I'm sorry, I just zoomed in on it, which was sort of useless. But you can actually specify more than one word. So I could specify love. sorry, love. Notice that I'm waiting for this sort of thing to come up. And so now I can compare the word hate and love. And the nice thing is Austin loves a lot more than she hates. And now if I go to the display, what did I just add there? Oh, I just added the word love without the wild card. If I go to display, now you can sort of see the area display looks a little bit better, a little bit more interesting. So we've seen how these panels work. I'm now going to talk about the different panels that are here. We've seen the word cloud. We have this terms panel. We use this sort of, if you will, spreadsheet in a number of different situations. I am going to expand this one just so that I can show some other features. So in this case, we've got the high frequency words, content words, and it's sorted by the count. So the highest frequency word is the highest. There's a lot of functionality here. I can add some columns. For example, I can add a comparison column, which isn't going to make sense until I do something in particular. So what this does is it compares the relative frequency of the word of each word in Austin to the relative frequency to the comparison corpus, which in this case is Shakespeare. So it's an interesting way of seeing what vocabulary is not just prominent or high frequency, but is actually more prominent in Austen than it would be in Shakespeare. And obviously, the comparison corpus will make a difference. But if you're doing certain types of studies, you might have a very large corpus of newspaper articles over a period of time, and then you're looking at a subset of it. Sometimes that can be quite useful. And so we have these different columns that we can bring up and we can sort in different ways. It can sometimes be interesting to see these are the words that show up more often, relatively speaking, in Shakespeare than in Austen. King, lord, shall, enter, sir, sort of things you would expect. What else is there to show here? You can use the little check boxes here if you want your trends graph. If you want your trends graph, so I want to look at terms of address, Mr., Mrs., Miss. Let's see if there's any other ones, maybe sister. No, we'll leave it at that. Mr., Mrs., Miss, and you'll notice that now the trends graph is synchronized, and we can sort of compare over the corpus the Mr., Mrs., and Smith without having to enter them. I can, by clicking this little plus sign, I can get for each one of these words a little summary. This is a summary of the distribution, some of the high frequency collocates, Mr. Knightley, Mr. Darcy, Mr. Elton, you'd expect it to be before names, some of the correlations, and some phrases that have the words. So you can get a quick sort of snapshot. Now, some of you are sitting there and going, why is miss in red? And if we scroll down, we'll see some words in green, like perfectly, or where are we? Affection, great, agreeable. So the reason for that is that we have a feature that allows you to create categories of words. I'm going to go up to the options here. I'm going to click Edit for Categories. So this is the list of all the words, and we've baked in a sort of simple version of dictionary-based sentiment analysis. So we have a list of positive words and negative words. And you can create your own lists of whatever, trees, flowering bushes, whatever it is that interests you. You can create your own lists of words, and then you can assign features to these. So we have assigned the color green to the positive words and the color red to the negative words. And that's why the word miss, which obviously can both mean an unmarried woman or can mean something negative in the sense of I missed, I wasn't able to make it, or I'm lacking something. So that's why that word is red. So let's see what else is there. The keyword in context is very useful. I'm going to open this up in its own tab. So we have, again, this is like a little spreadsheet. You can control the size of the columns. We can control the number of words of context. So I can see more or less context. This little plus sign, you can actually see like a paragraph of context. If you want to, you can type in words, so you can choose the word that you want to see the keyword in context. So you can do a lot of exploration, and we've got that scale thing. So if you want, you can, we're looking at the word hate in a specific novel, but we could decide to look at it across the whole corpus. I'm going to close that. And perhaps before I go on, now would be a good time to take some questions about Voyant itself and what you're seeing. So I don't know, I can perhaps I'm going to open up the chat, and if anybody wants to type in a quick question or two, I'm happy to answer some questions now, and then I'm going to go on to Spyral.
I'm not sure if there are currently any questions in the chat, but perhaps people are also welcome to open your mic. I think we're with a nice small group. If you
Yeah.
have any questions? I actually have a short question to start out with. I see that in the middle, so that the reader tool, the miss is red, like you just explained, but there it's capitalized. How does Voyant handle capitalization?
So we downcase all the words when we build the, if you will, the database. So this is the full text where it is capitalized. But in order to count words properly, we downcase them. So miss with a capital M and with a lower M are all going to be counted, are just going to be treated as one token and counted together.
Okay, you just need to look at the. Okay, can you see it in the keyword in context, or is that also no? That is still
That
capitalized.
is
So
also,
there you
no,
go.
that is, that's a good question. Uh, no, you see the word Fanny there? So
Yeah,
this draws on the full text, and so you'll see capitalization and stuff.
yeah, yeah. Wonderful. Thanks.
And
Not sure if there.
you can in a second when you see Spyral, you could count. If you really wanted to count the capitalized and the uncapitalized, you could do that in Spyral, which is a sort of notebook programming environment. But yeah, what we do is we downcase them for the sort of lexical database.
Yeah. Not sure if there are any other questions at the moment.
Okay.
Fabiana, you're welcome to. Oh, I see multiple questions now.
Great. Um, Let me figure out where we are at the stop here. So I see Dr. Van Zanen has put in the Sadlar instance, so I encourage you all to use that. Partly because it's closer, the server is closer to you, will probably work faster. So at the moment, it's got the same text, but I believe, Dr. Van Zanen, you're planning to have a collection of African language texts. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a bit of a discussion there. There's currently one collection of Xitsonga newspapers in there, but we're working on other text as well.
Excellent. And so what should sorry, I'm just trying to find it. What should a corpus look like to use with a Voyant? So Voyant, that's a very good question. Voyant can actually open and extract the text from a Microsoft Word file, a PDF, where the PDF has the text. PDFs can either be an image of the page with no underlying text, or the image and the underlying text. When there is the underlying text, we can extract it. Having said that, you will, with both Microsoft Word and PDFs, you will sometimes get some anomalies. So if you understand how to do it, and if you're actually doing a more careful research project, it's always best to save the plain text, to proof that, and upload the plain text, because that at the end of the day is what we're working with. But if you're just moving fast and trying something out, there's no harm in uploading a PDF and seeing whether or not we can extract it. How do you advise one to go around text analysis for research purposes to reflect on a particular chapter? So I'm assuming you've got a novel, you want to study one particular chapter. What I would do is take each chapter and make that a separate text file. I would name the text files, the first chapter I would name one space and then whatever the name of the chapter is. And the reason in the second chapter, two space, whatever, the reason for that is that when you use the trends, we will order the documents in the order, the alphabetical order. So if you upload 10 documents that start with one something rather, two something rather, you want the chapters to show up in order. And then once you've got the corpus, but your particular chapter is a separate document, you can do some really cool things. So for example, we have this list here of document terms. And let me see how this works. So I'm going to go back. I'm just going to reconnect this. So document terms, depending on the document you're working with, will show you, it's a statistic called TF-IDF. It'll show you the content words that in this chapter show up more often than in the other chapters. It's very similar to that comparison corpus thing that I did. But this allows you to compare chapter by chapter, so you can see what words are prominent in the particular chapter by comparison to the other chapters in the novel. So that's one thing that you can do. And you can use all the different tools to sort of look at and study a particular chapter and compare it to the other ones. So somebody is talking about official languages. So in terms of languages, these are the languages that we currently have. And we have a system set up so that if any of you want to, when I say language, by the way, I should say Voyant uses Unicode. So your text files can be in any language as long as it's encoded in in Unicode, which handles millions of languages. What we can control is the labels, the instructions, if you will, of Voyant. And so if anyone is keen to create a different language interface, a Xhosa interface, and my apologies for my pronunciation, you can work with us. What we do is we'll give you access to a spreadsheet for all the different labels and instructions and stuff like that. And you get the challenge of trying to figure out, how do you translate the word token into your target language? And you get to invent the digital humanities vocabulary for that language, at least for Voyant. So And then once you return, tell us that the spreadsheet is complete. We will then instantiate that and it'll show up on our server. But I think what you're really going to want it to do is to have it show up on your server. So then Juan and our programmer will work together. Dun, dun, dun. How do you export data from the panel with collocates to a Word document? Okay, so I'm going to. So here we've got the collocates. I hit export. Boom, let me see. Export current data. So you have a set of choices here. What you probably want is a tab separated value. Because this is a table, you're probably not going to want to take it to Word, but you're going to want to take it to Excel because you might want to then interoperate on it. And it'll be, you'll have the numbers there. And so you click this button, it gives you the tab separated thing here. You select that, you would copy it, you'd, the Zoom things are getting in the way. You'd switch to Excel and you would paste it in. And there you are. Let me expand the view. So I forget what word it is, but we've got, oh, it was Mr. Nightly, 321. There you are. So I am going to now go on to show Spyral. Am I still connected here? I just hit,
Yeah, I can still see everything.
yeah, no, I hit quit and I was worried that I had
Oh,
quit Zoom by mistake. I was trying to quit Excel. Okay, so here we are back. So I'm going to show you, this is the blank Spyral page. Spyral, you just go to the address for Voyant. In this case, I'm running Voyant off my local machine. You add a Spyral or Spyral. The hint here is this is a notebook, so Spyral notebook, that sort of stuff. This is a blank Spyral notebook, and like any other notebook environment, if you've ever used Jupyter notebooks, you have a combination of text cells and code cells. So, I can do some math here. This is a code cell. I run it, and it gives me the answer. But obviously, there's much more interesting things that we can do. Oh, and then, I can add another text cell and I can edit away. So I can create a list of text and code cells. But we have a couple of features that are different about Spyral Notebook than if you were using Jupyter Notebooks. First of all, the notebook is in the cloud. It's running on and if you save it, it gets saved to our server. You don't have to install Anaconda in order to run it locally. So it'd be a little bit like there are now Jupyter servers or Google Colab is another notebook environment that runs in the cloud. So it runs in the cloud, you save things in the cloud. So that's one difference. The other difference, which is particularly cool, is it is in fact a different interface to Voyant. So the two are tightly coupled, and I'm going to illustrate that now. So I'm right here. Let's say I see something interesting. I'm looking at this word cloud and going, that is really cool. I can choose to export this to a Spyral notebook. And what it does is it gives me the code. I don't have to learn how to write the code. It gives me the code that loads the corpus, and then it gives me the code that actually generates the Voyant tool right here. And this panel is actually interactive. It's a live panel. It's not a dead one. So I can build a Spyral notebook with the sequence of tools and results that I find interesting And of course, I can annotate them. I can add text and say, I am now going to get a word cloud. Let's say I see something, I find this is interesting. I'm going to export this. So I've exported it to a new Spyral notebook, but I actually want to keep it in my other notebooks. So I'm going to copy this line of code here. I'm going to add a code cell and I'm going to paste it in. And when I run it, I now get the trend. So you can imagine for teaching, for example, when I'm teaching Voyant, and I want my students not to just play with Voyant, I want them to actually do some digital humanities research, to pick a corpus, to create the corpus or assemble it, to study it in Voyant, and then I have them actually write their paper in Spyral, where they put the results that they find interesting, they explain to me what's interesting about it, how they got it, where the corpus came from, and so on. And they can do that without having to learn JavaScript, which is, by the way, the programming language that this works in. Unlike Jupyter, which is Python, this is in JavaScript. They don't have to learn JavaScript. But if you look at this JavaScript, you can go, this isn't that complicated. I can, edit this and run it again. And now I have a different set of words that are being graphed. So that's sort of the high view of Spyral. What I'm going to do is show you some Spyral notebooks so you have an idea of what can be done with them. So here is a notebook for a research group which is studying immigration. The group is called Bridging Divides. So I have an opening text where I describe where we got the data from. I actually have a link. If you want to study the same corpus, you can study it in Voyant. You just click that link. I have a link to other Bridging Divides notebooks, and I have a link. Duh, duh, duh. I think I think somewhere I have the actual data. Then I have this is another text cell. I am loading the data. So it's an Excel spreadsheet. What this is we extracted from the Hansard, which is the record of the federal government parliament's meeting. So we extracted all the speeches over a certain number of years that had the word immigration in it, and those were brought into a spreadsheet which had the name of the speaker, the party, and the actual speech. So I'm loading that data. It's an Excel spreadsheet. I'm doing some cool stuff here where I'm organizing the data in various ways to create the corpus, and this is where some of the real power is when you start working with spreadsheets of data. If you're doing social science analysis or interviews, or you have corpora of social media, you can have a big spreadsheet with lots of different columns, and then you can actually group things into different types of documents. And finally, here I am looking at, I've grouped stuff by the party. And so here I'm getting a little summary. I have, in effect, um, 5 different documents, a corpus of 5 documents. Even though there were hundreds of speeches, I've grouped all the ones by party. And this allows me to then start following themes by party. So I'm looking at the word terror. So, discourse about immigration. Our Conservative Party has been sort of talking about immigration and terror, letting terrorists in, and so on like that. So you can see here the graph of the word terror asterisks, terror, terrorists, so on like that. The Conservatives are using that a lot more. The Liberals are talking about it a little bit, and the Bloc Québécois and the Green Party and the NDP don't talk about it. I've come up with some other words that are interesting to me. And I can use this notebook to go back and forth and search for different things. I'm looking for the collocates. What words co-locate with the word terror? So IRGC is the Iranian, I think it's the National Guard or something like that. 79, violence, victims, victimized. So I can see what words co-locate. I can look at the keyword in context. So in this word, I'm looking for the collocation of the word artificial as in artificial intelligence. So I'm looking at how is AI being talked about in the context of immigration, where the two words are within 50 words of each other. And that gives me some examples. I can build a sort of semantic web. So I can do all sorts of stuff in this notebook environment that would be harder to do in Voyant or harder to keep track of. This allows me to keep track of it and to share this so it can be a companion to a published paper. You know, somebody can read the paper with our findings and our discussion, and then if they want to see how we actually got it, they can come to this notebook. I'm just going to show one more because this has an interesting feature which might interest some of you. Sorry, I'm going to show this one here. So this particular notebook was a small project I did with two friends. We're looking at Japanese video game companies and North American video game companies, and we're looking at their corporate documents and their mission statements and their vision statements and values. We wanted to compare how Japanese companies were talking about their mission and values compared to American companies. And what's different here is that we've got a field here. This is the actual corpus. It's an XML file. We've created it in XML, and we can edit it right here. So right in the Spyral notebook, I have an editing environment where I can edit, I can add, if I start looking at other companies, I can add a new element for a new company. For each one of these companies, I've got the family name of the company, Bandai Namco. I've got the region. In this case, it's a Japanese company, but it's their US website. So I'm also looking at how the same company might represent themselves differently in the home website and the American subsidiary website. And so there you are. And so I assign that XML file, I assign it to a variable, and then I import it because Voyant has the capacity to import XML files. We can specify which, using XPath, which elements we want to treat as text. We can specify how we want them to be grouped. In this case, I'm grouping them by family. And we can specify the title. And then I can start doing all the cool things that I would do with novels. In particular, you'll see here, I'm looking at the words business, entertainment, and technology, the raw frequency. You can see Bandai Namco, Microsoft. Microsoft is talking a lot more about technology. Nintendo talks a lot more about entertainment. Sony is talking a lot more about business. Sega Sammy is also talking about business. So we can begin to compare in different ways. Here I am getting I'm getting the sort of TF-IDF, if you will, of the vocabulary from the different companies. What are the words that are prominent in their web self-representations? And here I'm reloading the corpus, but now I'm creating two documents. I'm grouping all the Japanese websites and all the US websites. And that allows me to compare these terms, business, entertainment, technology. So in Japan, the word technology doesn't show up that much. It shows up a lot more in the US websites. Whereas in Japan, the word business and entertainment shows up a lot more than in companies like Microsoft and stuff like that. So I can now do a different type of comparisons. So I'm actually going to stop here. I've given you a quick sort of demo of how Spyral works. It's obviously a more advanced interface, but I'm going to switch back to my slides and wrap up and take some questions. Uh, so Spyral, I just for those of you who are interested, the notebook programming paradigm has actually got a what I would almost call a sort of humanist genealogy. It goes back to Donald Knuth, a paper he wrote on literate programming. Some of you have maybe played with Mathematica, Jupyter Notebooks, which are other examples of it. As I mentioned, you can export. What's unique about us is that you don't have to learn how to code. You can just play around with Voyant and then just export the things that you find interesting and document them. And I'm going to end by pitching the Voyant Consortium to them. The consortium is available to all of you who want to. You can join it. I think we have over 700 members now. It's free. When you join it, you get well, we have a free and open website, but you get a newsletter. We're introducing certain services that are free to members, but not usable to others. Specifically, we're introducing the idea of permanent corpora, persistent corpora. So if you have one that you're using and you want your students to use, if you're a member, we're going to introduce the capacity for you to give it a name and to make it persistent, because otherwise we tend to once a year we sort of clean out the different corpora. So here's my final slide. Here's how you can get more help. There is, of course, the Satellar version of Voyant. We're working with them, and they're adding texts. The consortium, you can get to the website there. We have lots of short articles about how to do things. We have these newsletters that give you things. We have extensive tutorial guides. And we have something which I think is quite useful, which is a textbook that sort of introduces you hands-on to how to use Voyant. Each of the chapters is available as a Microsoft Word document under a CC BY 4.0 license, which allows you, as if you're an instructor, you can download the Word file, you can edit it to your heart's content, change it to fit the particular class that you're doing, and you have a nice hands-on exercise that students can use. And of course, you can, if you want to go dig into deeper into what Stefan and I were thinking about, there's the MIT book, Hermeneutica, that you're welcome to try. So I'm going to stop sharing now and open it up for questions. I will turn the sharing back on if the questions involve my demonstrating something.
Okay, thanks, Geoffrey. I see there's a question by Esther. Can anyone download a Spyral notebook and run it elsewhere as it can be done with Jupyter notebooks?
So I'm going to start sharing again. So there's a number of different ways to download things. So first of all, you can download a Docker version of Voyant/Spyral and run it locally. So then your notebooks will be kept local. They'll be in the saved version of your notebook will be saved to your local server, which will be your machine. But in addition to that, any notebook you're looking at, you can export it as an HTML file. This HTML file will look more or less the same. This is taking a while. Since I'm running off my local one, let me. Um, well, anyway, I'm not gonna play with. It'll be essentially an HTML version of this, so it won't be interactive, but it documents, and then you can always upload that HTML back up into the Voyant Spyral server, and it becomes interactive again. So you can always save your notebooks locally. You can, if you're running a local instance of Spyral, you can save that. Uh, uh, you can sort of keep it all on your machine if you want to keep your data confidential or something like that.
So I was also wondering, perhaps that's a very similar question. So this runs on the cloud. So how do you keep track of which ones you have? Is there something like a list of notebooks that you have?
Yes, this was something I was, let me minimize. So you're looking up here. Right here, I can see my account. Something, let me just. So I just want to make sure I'm on the right server. So here is a catalog of all the different, and our server seems to be slowing down, but it's a catalog of all the different notebooks out there. You can see that there's various keywords. I can see the ones that are by Geoffrey Rockwell. These ones are going to be the ones that are in some sense published or public. I have a number of notebooks other than those. Um, and this seems to be going very slowly right now. So that's one way of finding notebooks. So here you see the ones that I have in some sense made public. I'm going to close this now. And here is where I can see my own account. So you'll notice I have to sign in with GitHub. So we use GitHub for authentication. You have to get a GitHub account. It goes to GitHub, it authorizes me, and it's chugging along slowly. And then I can see all my notebooks. So now it's going to take its time. You see, I can log out. Here are all my notebooks in sort of reverse chronological order. I can delete them. I can open them and so on like that. So that sort of, I hope, answers your questions.
Yep. No, definitely. I see another question there by Lebona. I'm not sure if I fully understand. So can dead text be a reliable and acceptable form to present your results? So I'm not sure, Lebona, what you mean by that. Also, welcome to open your mic.
So can dead text, well, so Spyral, I'm going to take a guess at this, but
Yes,
Spyral,
maybe to clarify a bit there, I'm saying when I've actually got the paragraph and it's inside the dialog box, and after the panels have actually worked on it, is it possible that I can maybe screenshot it and say, these are the results that I find and start narrating on it?
I'm I'm not sure I understand the question. If once you upload your text to the server, it is in some sense frozen. There are interesting situations where you want to study a sort of ongoing phenomenon, like you're studying some political thing that is moving, and then in effect, you have to regenerate your corpus. So, every day there's more news stories or social media, and you're adding to your corpus. And unfortunately, with Voyant, we don't have a mechanism for defining a corpus that in some sense is dynamic. You will have to manage downloading the new stories, the new social media, rebuilding your corpus, uploading it to Voyant, re-indexing it, and you're going to be replacing, in effect, the previous corpus. So it isn't quite, I don't know what the word would be. It isn't the best environment for studying something highly dynamic. An example, we were doing something where we were tracking the comments to a YouTube video, and the comments were being added every day. There were more comments. In effect, we had to bring the new comments down every day and rebuild the corpus, re-index it, and so on like that. The good news is with Spyral, if you have a notebook that has gathered all the different types of analytic tools that you want to do, you just you reload the new spreadsheet or the new collection of texts, and then you can run, and you'll see here you're assigning it a data name, and then you can run all the same tools, you rerun them, and you get the new updated results. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's my guess as to what you're interested in.
Thanks, Geoffrey. I think we're running a little bit out of time, but I think you just mentioned something that I personally find very important. So with a lot of the visual kind of applications where you just need to click on things and click on things and then you get some interesting results, it's very difficult sometimes to get back to what you created because you clicked on this and you clicked on this and you clicked on this and you forget what you click on. But with such a notebook, you can essentially store what you've done and you can actually get back to it afterwards. So if you get a new data collection, you can essentially, like you said, re-upload your new data collection and run the exact same steps that you've done before without having to click on 500 different things. So I think that's one of the major advantages of this. I think this is really cool.
And I should say, one of the things you can do is you can fork. You take your notebook, you create a new instance, and then you load the different text, and you can rerun. So you can fork your notebook and have one notebook that's studying one novel and one notebook studying something different, but it's all the same stuff. And you also, as you can see here, you can control exactly what the visualization does. What sort of chart type, what words that you're doing. Some of the visualizations have a lot of complex controls. All of this is now under control. Anyway, I think we've gone over the hour. I want to thank you very much for inviting me to talk, and I hope you all think of Voyant as your consortium, and it's by you and for you. Join the consortium, work with Satellar. They're running a mirror server, and talk to us about what you want to see this tool do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think this was a very, very useful presentation. We've been playing with Voyant a bit, but now actually seeing what else it can do is just really, really great. I very much appreciate your presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.